Hi and welcome to Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, Fantastic Four Grand Design, and Transformers vs. G.I. Joe.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com. Just search Tom Scioli. And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
From Golan and Globus, Canon Films.
Yes, the 4 sweetest words in the English language. The Canon Group Inc.
Hercules, starring
Yes.
Lou Ferrigno.
Oh my gosh, huge Lou Ferrigno fan.
Irish bodybuilder Lou Ferrigno.
He's like, came down from the Emerald Isles. Huge Hulk fan. This movie, I saw it when I was little a lot. I think of it as the one where Lou has the beard.
It's a good look.
Yes,
he definitely looks the part.
He looks great with the beard. Like Arnold with facial hair, not too...
Can Arnold grow facial hair? I'm trying to think.
Maybe I hallucinated him.
Yeah, I guess in some of his like older roles.
Yeah, they were like salt and pepper facial hair. Lou, great look for Lou. The Hulk, he was rocking the Hulk's the bearded Hulk.
He could be like the future, like the George Perez, the Maestro is who the Hulk is in the future, and he's got a beard. I think he's got dreadlocks too.
Oh, nice!
And it's all gray. I mean, we reviewed Clash of the Titans, and you can tell watching this, it's kind of like they were going for like a Star Wars, Clash of the Titans, He-Man,
Superman action.
Like even the way Zeus is in this is like. They're doing like the Clash of the Titans thing where he's like playing favorites and the other gods are chiding him. It doesn't quite come off because you don't have Sir Laurence Olivier playing the role.
Yeah.
Like this guy looks like he's wearing like a bad Santa costume.
Oh heck yeah! Like I think at one point like his beard, like fake beard, drooped and then snapped back up to his face.
Yeah, there's like a little too much like shadow and space, between his face and the hair and the beard.
He like comes out of the bathroom, you hear the toilet flush, and his beard's all askew, and they're like, "And action."
And like Clash of the Titans, they kind of like pretty clearly established why like some of the other gods were like jealous of like his love of Perseus, what he did to sort of their favorite sons and stuff. But in this, they don't even bother with that. They're like, okay, you saw Clash of the Titans. You get that Zeus plays favorites, and the other gods get mad at him.
I love when baby Hercules is in that boat, and those two snakes come up, and I thought he was gonna like conk. He basically did. I was looking for a good head conking where the baby
Just from like watching that Canon Films documentary, this was like Golan and Globus's like. This was like one of their big shots at the big time. I think they like partnered up with like a major studio for this one.
Yeah, I think Universal.
Mm-hmm. And it was like they had some legit backing to it.
Oh yeah.
They had sort of like a bigger budget, like a bigger stage, and then it like didnh do that great compared to like their cheapo stuff.
Oh,
like their cheapo stuff, did better than this.
And we got Lou Ferrigno and doing a Hercules. The yin to his yang. Arnold did a Hercules earlier, Hercules in New York. So we got Lou doing it. Also, he's getting a dub job in this.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, everybody in this movie is dubbed.
You're right. Like, somebody would deliver dialogue, and then you'd hear, their mouth wouldn't be moving, and then you'd hear it.
You think, like, that was, like, a pretty bold move for Conan, to, like, actually, like, because, like, they probably gave it a lot of thought about, like, dubbing Conan, Arnold's voice.
Yeah.
Like, dubbing a different voice over Conan, and I don't know the story behind the story. Like, I'm sure he was pushing for, like, no, it's got to be my voice and stuff. Because it is like, okay, we got these muscle guys, and then we're going to get some, like, Shakespearean actor to, like, do their voice. That would be funny if, like, they went back and, like, because, like, the reason I'm saying that is Arnold's Hercules movie was also a dubbed voice.
Yeah. Billed as Arnold Strong.
Yeah, that must have been a tough fight too to get like his actual name. And we're gonna be doing an episode about Pumping Iron.
Oh my gosh.
Where it is like that is kind of the thing that kind of moved Arnold into like a larger kind of like Hollywood, like got him on that Hollywood track like with a vengeance.
It's like that might be the only time we're seeing Arnold and Lou in the same movie together.
Now, and it's also like it put Lou Ferrigno on the map too, and got him, the Hulk.
I think the Hulk ended, and then this might be his first.
Like And yeah, like what a big jump, because when he was the Hulk, he was basically like a special effect.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, okay, here's the muscles. You didn't recognize him. Like, he was pretty disguised. And then here it's like, okay, now he's like, it's him as himself. Like you know, there's no prosthetics.
No.
And then and he's like the romantic lead. You know, like the Hulk never got any love scenes. Like Bill Bixby got all those, you know.
Every other episode, I've talked about like starting my steroid regime. Like,
well, it's funny kind of seeing this era, because like, it's like there was a time where if you wanted to play like an action hero, kind of like, you had to be like in like this kind of shape. Like you had to be, you know, Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, or you had to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, or you had to be Lou Ferrigno, you know. And then it was like, you know, they talk about like, you know, Michael Keaton as Batman, where it's like, oh, you can make a suit that has muscles built into it. You don't need these guys anymore. And the other one like they point to is like Die Hard.
Oh,
where
yeah.
it was like when you know, Die Hard was coming out and they'd see the trailer, like people in the theaters would like laugh at the idea of like the twerp from Moonlighting, that goofball from Moonlighting as like this like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I was so little. I wish I could have seen the lead up, or like I wish I could have like felt that, where like I'd be in the theater and see Bruce Willis like the trailer for Die Hard debut, and everyone's like.
Well, because like I mean, like Bruce Willis, like at the time they would kind of talk about him as he's like TV's Bill Murray. Like Bill Murray had already become a movie star, but he was like the TV version of Bill Murray. And it's like, if you could imagine like Bill Murray as an action hero, you know, it would probably kind of, you know, be the same kind of thing.
Oh, we're getting a bear fight here.
The Revenant or whatever.
Oh yeah, like this is I love a good guy in a bear suit.
I mean, this movie relies on a lot of stock footage.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like bear stock footage from like episodes of Gentle Ben or whatever. And then they cut to like the guy in the suit. Like you see the virtues of getting like somebody who is like a bodybuilder in it, because he's doing a lot of his own stunts. And when he's doing all this Hercules stuff and lifting, it is like super convincing. And,
oh, heck yeah.
And he's like doing a lot of his stunts in this. He he really moves good too. Like in these action scenes,
looks great.
Yeah,
punches great, jumps. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's always like throwing stuff into space, and then it like becomes constellations. So that's how the Big Dipper or the Great Bear came around. He threw a bear into space, and it happens like maybe half a dozen times in this movie. And I think like in Clash of the Titans there was kind of a thing too of like, you know, where you like maybe at the end of the movie you start seeing like the constellations. So it is like they're making this movie kind of based on their recollections.
This movie doesn't feature a somebody in the toga getting it blown up and then having like 80s basketball shorts underneath it.
You were saying about, you know, what this movie was for you as a kid, because like you loved the Hulk, and then, you know, here's Lou Ferrigno and another thing. Like this movie meant a lot to me as a kid too, and there was even like a little span of time when I was like maybe in first grade or something where this was like my favorite movie.
That's fucking awesome.
And I would like it really like inspired my drawings and stuff, because when I was a kid I would draw like, you know, a guy with like a sword on fire, or I'd draw like and the whole thing of like, oh, it's like Greek mythology but there's robots.
Those
kinda,
robots
blew my mind.
are mind, but like the special effects in this, I'm fucking here for all of it. Like that flaming sword at the end is incredible, and those robots, like, I was like scared for I was gonna call him Conan. I'm scared for Hercules when that like fly thing, he's like feeding it like the log.
Yeah.
It's like eating it.
That flaming sword, I was watching this and I was kind of like trying to figure out how's this special effect work, because like the angle on it, like I'm thinking, are they like hand animating that? Like are they, like they obviously have film of like fire, but are they kind of like superimposing it like at, like a frame at a time? You know,
it was blowing my mind. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
So they have like a robot like Hydra or something with like 3 heads, and they have like a giant robot fly, and then the coolest one is this like robot Sagittarius, or like a robot what's it called, like a robot centaur.
Oh yeah.
And like they kind of remind me of Zoids. Do you remember the toy Zoids?
Holy crap. I said that, the Techno Zoids. I thought that's the exact same thing. The Zoids.
Yeah, Zoids. They were like these like a little one, and they were
Huge
like
fan, by
they
the
were
way.
like pre-Transformers, I think, if I remember correctly.
Oh, the ones I'm thinking of were later. But
Okay, this was like you'd wind them up, and then they'd start.
They might.
Let me look it up because I think they did predate the Transformers by like they might have been like 83. So
I
like
didn't know they were from the 80s.
so we're both learning something. 'Cause you didn't know there was like a Zoids generation like, and I didn't know there was Techno Zoids, which is kind of I guess Zoids generation 2. So yeah, and like 10 years apart. So I guess like somebody bought the rights to because Zoids kind of came and went. They were super cool, and the commercial was awesome, and it had the voice. Of it was like the guy who was like the voice of like ABC or whatever. He was like Zoids. Yeah. And they were like this. You'd wind them up and it would be like a dinosaur or whatever, and you'd wind it up and it'd be like a robot dinosaur.
That's so awesome that we're coming to it from like two different eras of the Zoids.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, the Techno Zoids.
Yeah, that's totally so it was like, man, what a like breakthrough it was to me as a kid seeing like. Oh, it's Greek mythology with the Zoids, and yeah, just like it's like they never explain it. It doesn't make any kind of sense, but it just works. It's like
works.
It's like, hey, why why not? Like Clash of the Titans had a little robot owl. Let's make everything robot.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies where they're like making the plot up as they go along, but they have this explanation that like, oh, as soon as these little tiny robots hit air, they like expand, and then like. 2 scenes later, you see it like expanding on the moon, and then they send it down. The special effects are fun. I haven't seen this movie since I was a child, and these scenes were way cooler in my recollection than now. Which
It's been a long time since I've seen this one as well. When I would play like two, I would do the. I think I was doing the Lou Ferrigno movement where I pretend I have like giant muscles and like
that's like a move you would see in like video games and stuff where like the character would just be like standing and there'd be like a 3-frame animation that they'd like repeat as they're like about to fight.
That was my priceless mummy you destroyed.
He's gonna burn his stone hut down.
He's like, it took us 100 years to carve this from stone. My family's not there. Anybody like?
Yeah, like when I saw this movie, like I didn't know, Lou Ferrigno's like how would you like maybe from like the Mr. Rogers episode, but I didn't. So like it didn't like, and I probably didn't even know about overdubbing at the time either. Yeah. So it's just like, okay, this is what he sounds like.
He looks good with a beard.
It's a good look. Like he's got like it's a shame he didn't get like more like leading man roles after, because like I think he's like. Delivering the goods.
He is definitely delivering the goods.
Again, it's like, we're kind of going from one era to another, so it's kind of like, 50s, 60s, 70s, that sort of like overdubbed voice is kind of like, yeah, no big deal. But it's like once you get like a little further into the 80s, it's kind of like a strange idea. Like overseas. People wouldn't blink an eye. Like they're accustomed to getting like overdubbed Hollywood movies, but then like in America, it's kind of like you're not going to sit still for a lot of overdubbing.
Oh, there's a scene coming up here when he fights like a bunch of these dudes. They I like the casting of these schlubs. They're like, let's get the most out of shape schlubs to juxtapose against Lou.
Yeah, and like again, he's like doing like real feats of strength. So like he's fighting them with like he's fighting all these guys by holding like a giant log or like a column or whatever. And they're fighting with like normal swords, but then they like every time the swords connect, they apply this like lightsaber effect. I loved the idea of like ancient times with like sci-fi elements. Like even though it's completely nonsensical, that's probably part of what makes it cool. And and maybe like a little bit like Chariots of the Gods kind of thing, and like there's that like when he goes to that like when he starts going through space and then he comes to that like little island world where it's like pyramids, but like the pyramids are like they look like the Death Star as a pyramid or something. I
love it.
Really captured my imagination as a kid, and kind of like I feel like you can see the influence on my comics. You can see how this like would have influenced me.
Heck yeah.
And it's like super Kirby-esque, you could totally. I mean, Jack Kirby did that kind of thing where we would have like, kind of like robots and high tech and sci-fi on like in Asgard and stuff. Like it's kind of like it's kind of like a Thor movie, but then like Hercules, you know, Kirby did a number of comics with Hercules in it, like within the Thor comics, and then even Hercules does a thing that like, you know, Thor does. That's pretty cool when he jumps over the chariot.
Love it.
But like he does the thing where they have that like chariot, and they're like, oh, how are we gonna make this thing go? There's no horses, and so then he like wraps a rope around like a block, like a stone block, and then and then like throws the rock into space, and then jumps on the chariot, and then like pulls it. Like that's what Thor does with his hammer, you know. He
that's so sick. Oh, very Hulk-esque.
Yeah, if we should have painted him green. If we would have painted him green, this movie would have been a hit. We blew it by not painting him green.
The Lou Ferrigno wince is like, it's like patting that.
Yeah, I mean, he like these are the scenes where he shines, like where he's like lifting heavy stuff, because that's where he's like doing all his Hulk moves. But yeah, like there's like parts where like he's running around, and he's like lasers are shooting at him, and he's running around like he's because that's always the thing that like you hear about like with these bodybuilders is that they're actually like incredibly like unhealthy, and like all those muscles are actually they're encumbrances, like they make like you're not able to do anything, you just
have no range of motion.
Yeah, exactly. You're just walking around like this thing. But like you see in this, like he's an athlete, you know, he's athletic, he's moving. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Here we go. Look at these guys. Look at these.
You're right. It's like they're filming Revenge of the Nerds in the next studio, or they're filming the Last American Virgin. I'm trying to think of other canon films, but they're filming the Last American Virgin.
I think Porky's 2 set is right over there.
Yeah, you know, like I was gonna say Sweat Hogs. There's one of the T-Birds stunt stand-in.
They're like, we gotta make sure when they're casting they have like male pattern baldness.
He throws the log into space and then becomes like the monolith from 2001 or something.
They test those guys. They're like, you have to have low T levels.
Yeah, he's the coolest. You know, and again, like, you know, an Italian, you know, like a role model for Italian American kids.
He's the Irish stallion, or
right? Ferrigno.
Hercules, you beat up our finest slugs.
I see all the stuff I loved about it as a kid, and then I also see all the stuff that like kind of gets glossed over in my memory, like all the horrible stuff. And it is like the story. I don't follow the story at all. There's like this plot, like when he was a kid, and then he, you know, like they just don't. They don't like communicate things very well. They don't like. There's no stakes. He's just kind of like, okay, now I'm gonna go here. Okay, now I'm going over here.
Before you have too long to think about like what's going on, the baby like grabs those 2 snakes and squashes their heads.
Yeah,
and then something else happens. I'm like, all right.
All these showstoppers. Yeah, like and those snakes again, like they kind of like are sci-fiing everything up. So like those snakes, they're not just normal snakes. They look like, you know, weird like space snakes or something. They look like. The little things that like crawled in the ears of in the ear of Chekhov in like Star Trek 2.
Their eyes were glowing yellow.
Yeah. Like everything's got a little laser. It's not Pandora's box in this. It's like Pandora's jug or something. It's like this. It's like, but it's like
it's got 3 X's on it.
It's this like you know, urn or whatever. But then it's got all these like little different colored lights on it to give it a little sci-fi flavor. And like that's a motif that keeps coming up where they'll have something where it'll have like a bunch of those like, you know, different colored lights on them. Yeah, and then here's the Aegean stables, kind of looking like something from like the Never-Ending Story.
Oh,
What year is this? Is this like 84, 85?
83. The Never-Ending Story
Part 2.
I haven't seen the sequel to this one.
There's a sequel to the Lou Ferrigno Hercules.
Yes.
Oh, you're blowing my mind. Is Lou Ferrigno in it? Or
yes.
Is it made out of like deleted scenes from this?
From 1985.
Okay, so like, and I'm guessing that's like a solo Canon Films production, you know?
Yeah.
The Aegean stable scene is pretty cool. Like, it looks super funky when they're in there, like, and then when he like cleans it out, and it's like, you know,
he's like
pristine.
Hercules has defeated the worst monstrosities of everything, but he's met his match, horse apples.
The way they must have like done this scene is like they built the set for the Aegean stables, and like and then like filmed the hey, it's clean, you know, and then they like finished the set and added all the like details. And
there's that one famous Hercules story where the giant horse takes a shit, and then he's like he has to push 2 giant horse apples.
We don't get the 12 labors of Hercules, and you know, like it's weird that just that whole tradition of Hercules movies, I guess because it's like there's not a lot of like really cool stuff in the public domain, so it's like Hercules is like one of those things, so like hence a million Hercules movies. I could imagine like Universal being kind of like horrified when they like see this movie, because it's fun, but it looks really cheap.
Yeah, even for 1980, we think about all the awesome, like I think Terminator's like 1984,
yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, it's ambitious, and there's like a lot to it, but like
we're looking at the screen, we're not seeing a lot of
the budget, yeah, and just like the script, like I don't know if we're just kind of like accustomed to like a different level of like storytelling now or something, but it's like, you know, it's just so flimsy. Like they don't really establish, like, you know, finally when like Cassiopeia shows up, okay, maybe we can get to something a little more meaty, get, you know, some kind of cool story going between them, but they really are just kind of, they're just kind of hanging out. Yeah.
A lot of miniature stuff going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. They, you know, these are, some of these shots are like beautiful shots. And again, that is like, it makes me think of like the Southern Oracle in Neverending Story. You know, they're kind of like big sphinxes. So in this, it's like it's these like big horse statues that are the stables. You know, it's like they have the budget for like the stables, but you don't see one horse. See, there it is. Like now it looks like a warehouse. It's like, okay, this is where the set's going to go.
I think that they filmed this in Italy, I think.
Okay.
It's their first day on the set. They're like...
George Lucas and Steven Spielberg all doing their thing, and then it's like, hey, I can do that too.
Yeah.
You know, I can put stuff in space.
It's like...
I can show robots. Again, like a lot of these like close-ups of Lou Ferrigno and a lot of like acting and you know, like he's pulling it off and stuff, but I'm just picturing like, you know, at the premiere, like his dad sitting next to him like, Louis, you look like something Michelangelo cast.
I love that guy.
In bronze.
Yeah, his dad, he's like, I love when he's showing him how to pose. He's like, now you want to come like this, Louis, and you want to,
Louis, you're like a sculpture. You're like something Michelangelo sculpted. You belong in a museum, Louis. Louis, this performance in this Hercules movie. Louis, you look better than the real Hercules. The real Hercules is a schlub compared to you, Louis.
Here's a script. Golan and Globus sent this to first class mail, Louis.
Mr. Golan, Mr. Globus, first of all, I want to thank you for giving my Louis this great opportunity. Lou Ferrigno in Hercules, another candidate for the Helmet Hair Hall of Fame.
Oh my God!
Like the thing that's making me notice it is like he passes out and then they like pick him up, and so now you're seeing the hair upside down, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is some real.
The Helmet Hair Hall of Fame.
You see what that hair does when it's got gravity applied to it.
Heck yeah! I think that's like there's like an event horizon on the lip of his, like, it's so dense. In Pumping Iron, we do see him. The camera's like lingering on him while he does like some hair work.
You know, he's got the 70s hair in Pumping Iron, and then he's got the 80s hair in this. So here he is supposedly underwater taking off these chains, but it is just like, you know, it's just like a camera in a room with like, you know.
Are you familiar with Canon Films, Louis?
Louis, have you seen the American Ninja series? See, like more stock footage. Like the one that was killing me in the stock footage is like at the beginning of the movie when like they're you know, they have like the coup or whatever, and like they're like, and then, you know, blood was spilled all throughout Greece, and then like you see like this dissolve to like, you know, some, you know, sword and sandal movie from like 1962.
Before you mentioned they use scenes from Gentle Ben, like the other actors are like in the background.
Right, yeah.
It's like, I didn't know they had flannel in like ancient Greece. We're getting a free trip to vacation to Italy, Louis. You, me and your mother are coming.
We're going back to the homeland, Louis. Circe, the witch who, we talked about Cersei in the Eternals episode, and yeah, she's got like, like the full, witch look going, the mask and everything. Later on, that mask is going to kind of melt away, and it's, yeah, you're gorgeous. I got to see that Hercules too, because it was kind of like, it was this, and then like, I don't remember like seeing him as like a lead ever again. Like next time I saw him after this was at like Comic-Con, like signing pictures.
I was reading that they said that up until like Age of Ultron, he was doing like Hulk, like uncredited voice work for the Hulk in the new Marvel movies. Like,
oh really?
When
okay.
Hulk was like growling or making
do the growls
noises
and stuff. Okay. I feel like if I look through like my old stuff from when I was a kid, I think I'll be able to find some like notebooks or something with like obviously like inspired by this movie drawings of like a guy with a flaming sword fighting a a robot centaur. I'm sort of writing Hercules 2 in my head now that I know it exists, because I'm picturing like, okay, did they like amp up the sci-fi stuff? Like, is he in some kind of cool like Road Warrior kind of car in the sequel or something, And
that's awesome.
Then it's like, what other? Is there like a robot dragon? Is he riding on like a robot Pegasus? Like what's going? Are there like tanks? Like there. I forget the name of it, but there's one of those like '80s sci-fi movies like that that you would get from like the video store, where it was like a guy who he was kind of like a centaur, but instead of like a horse, it was a tank. He was like half cyborg, half tank, and then he could like pull himself out of the tank thing, and then he had like he'd like put his robot legs back on, and then when he was the tank, he'd take his robot legs off, and then they'd kind of like they'd kind of sit like on the tank.
I need to see that so bad. Hercules is here. I've got him right where I want him. I knew he would be here. I didn't expect him to have 20-inch biceps.
There's like the rainbow waterfall. There's a lot of like rainbow kind of stuff, and I'm thinking it's like a lot of like on-set projection, where they have like a little slide projector or something, where they're like shining different colors and different gels. I feel like I should probably write down or draw my Hercules 2, like that's just in my imagination before I actually see the real Hercules 2, because I'm picturing like this, but like amped up, like almost like, okay, this is just the appetizer, and now we're gonna have like Hercules fighting like mutants. There's got to be like a minotaur or something. I love this lady's costume. It's like so Ed Wood. It's like she's like in like full on 50s Martian gear.
Yes.
Everybody else is like some hybrid of like sword and sandal and sci-fi kind of mixed together, but she is like pure 50s sci-fi.
It is the
the theremin.
Theremin.
Yeah, looks a little like Alicia Silverstone.
In one interview, she's like, "My mom was in Hercules '83." This guy's beard looks like it's ready to fall off his face.
Yeah. The like beard that goes like this. Yeah. My memory of this sort of like robot Hydra was so much cooler too. Like all these robots look like they're made out of like camera parts and stuff that they like found on the set. I remember that thing being so much cooler, where like the heads are all like independent and each doing a different thing. But then in this, it's it's got 3 heads, but then they all like kind of move with each other, which is kind of a letdown.
You have him fighting like the Zoids.
The Zoids, yeah. Zoids. Like I gotta watch the commercial now, because like that guy's voice sticks in my like Zoids.
Hercules has like some kind of like power loader thing from Aliens.
When like anytime they go into a new set because like you could tell like the budget was like, okay, we're not going to make any great sets, but we're going to make a lot of sets.
Yeah.
They're like constantly on the move, and so like every time they come to a new set, they must be like, whoa. Look at it, like really proud of it. Like, wait till you get a load of this set.
The camera zooms in pretty close, and it's like you can see the Italian newspaper that they like paper mache. He's like fighting, and the newspaper has like, it's like Leaning Tower of Pisa like leans further.
Like look, like see, like wouldn't it be so much cooler if those like heads each did different things instead of just like moving with each other?
Like one shoots fire, one shoots like.
But I mean, that is kind of the point of these movies. Like a kid sees it and then like your child imagination kind of fills it and like and makes it like way better than it is. And then like you grow up and then you're like, oh man, remember that great Hercules movie when we were kids? And then you watch it and you're like, oh, this isn't so great. But practical effects, like I love that it's not that it is like a robot hydra made out of camera parts as opposed to like a CG.
It says like Nikon on the side.
I know that like anybody could make a Hercules movie, like he's not proprietary, but it would be cool to see somebody like the way they've made like somewhat recent Clash of the Titans movies. If somebody made like a somewhat recent Canon Films Hercules movie with like Hercules versus, because I meant like, see, this is the set I'm talking about. That's so cool.
God,
like those,
I love that.
Like electronic pyramids and stuff, and giant statue.
It has like a little like a torch on it.
So, walking over the Rainbow Bridge. So like I'm thinking like I mean they must have been thinking about like Jack Kirby comics and stuff making this movie. But like and then that like skull, that's like Castle Gray skull or something. And it's also like there's like a Jim Starlin comic called Dreadstar, and it's kind of got the same thing where it's like this like cool looking like skull.
This boatman with this skeleton boatman is like one of my favorite images from the movie.
And again, it's another reference to Clash of the Titans, and I think my memories of Clash of the Titans are kind of like meshed with my memories of this, where it's like I kind of like smushed them together a little bit, because I feel like again, they are referencing the way they portrayed Karen or Kayron or whatever in Clash of the Titans, but I feel like there are a couple things in this that like kind of like fill in some of the gaps. And
it's hair versus hair.
Hamlin
versus Ferrigno.
Well, it was like they're like, okay, they're breaking it down and like, okay, we want to make something like Clash of the Titans, so it's like, okay, they got a robot owl, so we're gonna have a bunch of like robot stuff. It's like, okay, the guy has like amazing hair, we're gonna have somebody with amazing hair. We're gonna you put Hercules, like Lou Ferrigno's Hercules, next to Harry Hamlin's Perseus. I mean, it is like, but Hercules was like, he was like the strongest of all of these heroes and stuff, so it makes sense that like Perseus would be kind of like a lesser Hercules,
Lou Ferrigno, he turned down L.A. Law.
Yeah, I like that there's like webs over the Grim Reaper skull.
They're going to you're right. They're going to Castle Grayskull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you could see how they like our younger selves are like just totally this cast of stuff. I didn't see this in the theater, but I do remember seeing like in the newspaper where you'd have like the theatrical announcements in the newspaper. I remember seeing like a big like black and white kind of like image, like poster or whatever. Like
the poster for this is awesome.
Yeah, great colors in this. Like it's really colorful. Yeah, and then like a hand with like an eye. This is like Jack Kirby imagery, and then like this scene is I guess this predates the Dune movie, maybe?
I think so.
And I think Dune was 84 also.
Yeah.
But like there's a scene in Dune where he like has to like and of course Dune, the book, predates this movie. But like there's a scene where like Paul Atreides has to like put his hand in a box.
Oh yeah.
And like he's going to feel all kinds of pain, and if he pulls his hand out, he's going to get killed. So he's got to keep his hand in as his hand like freezes, burns, and stuff. And then they have like a scene of like that in this where he like sticks, Hercules has to stick his hand in this like opening, and then it turns fire, ice, and he has to endure the pain of it, so he can become the Kwisatz Haderach. And he's got the same like dubbed in voice of like every Hercules movie. It's the same dubbed voice that Arnold had in Hercules in New York. Now like again, like we'll talk about it more in our Pumping Iron episode, but there was like this ongoing rivalry, of course, between Lou Ferrigno and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you could see how like one gets ahead a little bit and the other falls behind, and then the other gets, and it kind of goes like this, and then eventually like Arnold's just like off to the races. But it is kind of back and forth, and it's like Arnold's got his Hercules movie, and then like Lou Ferrigno's Hercules movie is like way better, like 100 times better, way cooler, and gets like Arnold's really was like you know, like if you call this like a B movie or whatever, Arnold's Hercules was like a Z movie, and this was like a B movie that was like attempting to.
They're trying.
You know, yeah. Point goes to Lou Ferrigno at this point, where it's like okay, you did your Hercules movie, it was a piece of shit. I just did like a super cool Hercules movie.
Get in a time machine, go back to '83. This is coming out. Terminator hasn't come out yet. You're like, it's gonna be Ferrigno. Ferrigno's taking it.
Yeah, the Hulk thing was like a big jump too, because like he was a TV star. He was like a regular presence on TV. Arnold was probably like gnashing his teeth, like it was like motivating him.
He's like, I'm gonna get Lou. Lou is going down.
Because Lou, it was like, you know, like Lou was like the young up and comer, and again we see that in Pumping Iron, how and you know in a lot of ways it's like a setup too, but it was kind of like, okay, I'm like the top guy, and now there's this like young guy, and then he like kind of leapfrogs over me and becomes the Hulk, because, you know, all this stuff.
He's like, I'm gonna get him.
Louis.
Lou, you're gonna come. It's like, your mother says inviting me to New York, and we're gonna have the send me up your sister and everything. It's like,
we should probably get to the Pumping Iron episode, because it's kind of like this is almost turning into
we're
like I feel like we've maybe like said pretty much everything we have to say about this.
I don't remember seeing Clash when I was little. And this one, it was on TV. I've seen that, and like I was kind of like following Lou Ferrigno, like from the Hulk, like
right. Yeah, it was like your Hulk fandom kind of led you to this.
Yeah,
I guess I saw it on TV too at some point, but like the way I first saw it was like renting the VHS, you know, and it was like I said, there were maybe a couple months where it was my favorite movie, where it was like, oh, this is better than Star Wars. You know, it just seemed like a little more off the beaten path. It's really weird, and it like takes a lot of chances visually. And again, it's like a different flavor that you didn't really see very much. Like it was like, okay, you got your sci-fi stuff over here, and you have your, you know, sort of mythology and Once Upon a Time kind of stuff, and just bringing them together, it was like, okay, we're you know, like we're moving into some brave new world.
When I would see Lou Ferrigno like this, I would think, I'd be scared that he was going to turn into the Hulk. He's going to train.
That's where they blew it with this movie, that they didn't make it like a Hercules and Hulk.
Hercules? Has that ever come around?
I don't. Well, I mean, they've done Hulk as like a gladiator kind of stories. Like for a while, Hercules replaced Thor in like the Thor comics. He like stood in for Thor. I think maybe there were some like Hulk issues where it became like the Incredible Hercules or something. But I think maybe. But yeah. Oh, and then here where he grows to be a giant. Lou Ferrigno is like a one-man Ray Harryhausen special effect. You know, he does all the Ray Harryhausen stuff.
And action. All right, flex your pecs.
He had the Hulk, and then he has this. And it's like okay, yeah, Lou Ferrigno is like the guy from the bodybuilding subculture who, you know, broke big and became, you know, crossed over, became, you know, Hollywood, you know.
There's no stopping this train.
Yeah. Like I'm just kind of like remembering what these scenes were like in my imagination, like just so much cooler than what I'm seeing here. Like I don't know.
The seams are presenting themselves.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe like because I never saw it in this like resolution or something, or maybe you know, the film stock has faded a little, or something, you know. Like you see these bricks where it's like, you know, it's like very clearly like breakaway brick here.
They had to call them from like all the high school productions of whatever. It says like property of the drama department. All right, action and pretend like you're lifting something extremely heavy.
This is, yeah, you see like where that roof was like sawed to like make it like, you know, fall down. It's like this perfect seam, this perfect break.
You're right. We've got a new entry into the Helmet Hair Hall of Fame. Nestled in between like the Landon and the Bixby. Oh,
here's the rope that comes to life.
We've already got Bixby. Lou Ferrigno's coming in too.
Yeah. It makes it like, I don't know why we didn't think of that sooner. That like, yeah, like if Bixby's in the Helmet Hair Hall of Fame.
Louis, congratulations on getting in the Helmet Hair Hall of Fame.
The one part where they do stop motion animation is for this like rope that comes to life, like something they could have so easily done.
They're like the iconic. They chose like Ray Harryhausen from like Clash of the Titans, and then they're like, and here's the iconic curling rope scene.
Yeah, it's
from
like
Hercules.
Right. You got the Medusa, and then you have the rope.
The rope.
Lou Ferrigno's real good at playing smug
Yeah.
and condescending. Like, he really... Watch this space for our review of Hercules 2 after we see it. Yeah,
Here
see,
we
he's
go,
doing
yes.
the Thor thing, swinging the hammer around, throwing it, and then quick get on the
Oh hell yeah!
on the thing and
Yep.
go flying a chariot through a meteor shower.
There's Minox chewing on the undercarriage of his chariot.
His chariot. Yeah, no, don't worry about like oxygen or anything. This is magic space. Yeah, you've been watching the Lou Ferrigno Golan and Globus Hercules episode of the Total Recall Show. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, Fantastic Four Grand Design, and Transformers vs. G.I. Joe.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can check out my Patreon. Go to patreon.com and search Tom Scioli. And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
Yeah, Louie, you're a work of art.
Yeah, work of art, Louie.
It's funny. They're like flying through space, and then the rope breaks, and they fall off this chariot that they're in space in, and then you see them start to fall off the chariot, and then immediately cut to them like 2 inches above like water, you know, sploosh.
It shows like a NASA capsule that had landed, like they're like coming out. That
Yeah, it's
statue.
super cool. Like just some of the like it's all this like album cover art, you know, but in a movie.
It's like, yes.
There's like an Alan Moore comic. It's like a series. It's Alan Moore and Rick Veitch, and I think maybe John Totalbin. It's called 1963. But one of the issues is like Horus, who's you know, like the Egyptian god, and like there's kind of like this like sort of pyramid city that's like visually very like a sort of like a pyramid city in space. It's kind of reminiscent of this. Yeah, I think we're like ready to do the Pumping Iron episode because we keep like morphing.
Oh yeah,
into the
morphing.